there's this type of bird and this type of bird. We got 2 foxes, 2 of every animal, 7 clean and 2 unclean, and then a whole bunch of dogs. I mean, just so many dogs.
Unholy, obscene, offensive amount of dogs even.
Picture the largest number of dogs you could think of. There's more in his house. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unbelievable, where today we are getting spooky. Maybe you're listening to this the same week that it came out, so it's still October, or maybe you're listening to it a long time from now, so it's the middle of April or something. But either way, come join us by the fire as I, unlicensed ghost hunter Kurt Danner, tell my friend, retired vampire Luis Mejia, 2 spooky stories from history, 1 true, 1 fake.
And it's up to me to guess which is which.
You don't have to do the accent, Luis. You're retired, remember?
Right.
So before we get into this episode, I just want to give a quick content warning, which I know will probably make a lot of regular listeners of this podcast nervous, considering the stuff that we have talked about without a content warning. But it's not that there's really anything crazy in here. It's just a large quantity of descriptions of violent crimes.
You know, I find it very interesting that we're giving content warning for that, considering our very first episode, we fully just started talking about foreskins with no warning whatsoever.
Yeah, there's just a lot of descriptions of violent crimes. So for those who are faint of heart, be warned, true crime junkies, start salivating now.
Yeah.
Content warning is like a Pavlovian dog bell for true crime enthusiasts. It's like, ooh, there's going to be some fun stuff in here.
Yeah.
But enough warning labels. Luis, do you have a spooky fast fact for me before we get started?
I do have a spooky fact. Well, I think you could say spooky adjacent, if you will, Kurt. Now, Curtis, true or false? World War I pilots carried approximately 2 to 3 pumpkins. Ooh, spooky. Carried approximately 2 to 3 pumpkins in their cockpit when they were flying to use whenever they ran out of bombs. True or false?
Feels like a Mad Lib fast fact. Like pilots in World War II made bombs out of pumpkins.
World War I pilots, Kurt, come on.
Oh, sorry, World War I. That changes everything. I feel like I don't know that all pilots in World War I would have had access to pumpkins. Like, I don't know where pumpkins came from, but it feels like they weren't all over Europe in such abundance that they would have all had them. Also, pumpkins would take up a lot of space in the cockpit and weight. So, yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with false.
Kurt is basically saying the French, you know them? Yeah. Didn't have pumpkins. Didn't know what a pumpkin was until 1974. Kurt, I think you're on a good track for today's episode because that's indeed a false fact. I don't know. You told me think of a spooky fast fact, Kurt, and I went immediately to pumpkins. And yeah, no, that's not true. But imagine if it were.
Imagine if it were. And, you know, it's at the point where I feel like we've said such crazy things that there's almost no fact that's too outlandish. Mm-hmm. Like, even though the pumpkin thing didn't sound right, there was still part of me that was like, maybe? You never know.
You know, it's the belief that we carry out while making this podcast, Kurt, where we like to fool ourselves into believing we live in a slightly more magical world.
It's true. But that being said, are you ready to get spooky?
I think I'm ready to get spooked, Kurt. So please, take it away.
All right, let's do it. So our first story takes place in Cambridge, England in 1842. Okay, so this is 1842. It's the Victorian era.
Good year.
Good year. This is kind of the time period where Cambridge is transitioning from being an agricultural village into a bustling small city. But as always, there's a large student population because of all the schools that are in Cambridge.
Because of the notorious university that's in Cambridge.
Well, I mean, there's several universities. But September 26th, on the night of September 26th, just past 2 a.m., it's a quiet fall night on Blossom Street, when suddenly the tenants of 317 Blossom Street are awoken by the sounds of a woman's screams and crashes that are so loud that a couple of them actually shake the building, then later joined by, quote, a deep demonic cry that didn't sound human. So they send for the police. Police arrive about 30 minutes later. When they get to the scene of the ground floor apartment where the noise was coming from, they find that the door is cracked open, but there's no signs of forced entry. The door wasn't broken open or anything. The apartment itself is torn apart. There's broken furniture and broken dishes all over the floor. The wallpapers and bed sheets have slash marks on them, and some of the boards on the walls and floor are broken or torn off. In the police report, they say that it looked like someone took an axe to the entire apartment. In the apartment, police find the body of lone tenant Minnie Baker. Her body is severed in half and both of her arms are torn off. She's covered in cuts and slashes, and it looks like several of her organs have been removed removed. Interestingly, while most of the valuable items in the apartment are destroyed, there's nothing that seems to be missing, but obviously it's hard to tell with all the wreckage and, nobody knows all the stuff that she had. But there's no witnesses to it, so the police have pretty much nothing to go on, so they have no theory about what happened. However, that doesn't stop the townspeople from running wild with rumors of Satanists and witches.
Naturally.
And this is also fueled by the fact that, okay, so the body was dismembered, but also many of the bones were broken so that the limbs were kind of in odd shapes. And there starts to be this widely believed story that Minnie's body parts were arranged in some sort of shape or some part of a ritual to summon the devil, hence the demonic screams. In the police report, they never mentioned the body being arranged in any sort of shape, but this is something that people talk about a lot.
Yes, the common piece of evidence known as hearsay. Love it.
I mean, that's a classic all throughout history. If you don't know what it is, Satanists and witches.
It's Satanists and witches, always.
Yeah.
Also, Kurt, I want to take a quick pause. You fully gave no introduction to this story. You just put us right on the scene of the crime. You started this story. What's the word?
In medias res.
In medias res, yes, you did start the story in medias res.
What does that say about our podcast that you were trying to think of the phrase in medias res, and I knew immediately what it was?
Yeah, Kurt, it just goes to show we're two idiots. It just goes to show we're two big-ass nerds.
We are both the sexiest and most annoying people at every party we're at.
Yeah, we're the ones that pull out a guitar and start playing some, like, new wave stuff.
Oh, no, I don't want to be that. No, I take it back. I don't want to be the guitar guy.
We don't just play any guitar riffs at parties, Kurt. We could just play Wonderwall, but instead we're like, have you heard this song by Rush that I'm going to try acoustically for the next 11 minutes? Anyway, no, that's good, Kurt. That's good. I'm glad we're starting off. This is good. This is fun. I like it. We're starting off with a mystery.
I promised you spookiness, okay? We're not rising action here. We go straight to the grisly murder.
I'm spooked, for sure.
So now at this point, we skip ahead to October 3rd, okay? It's the evening of October 3rd at the Dog and Partridge Inn. It's an inn that's only a few blocks away from Blossom Street. Around 11 p.m., the innkeeper, Martha Wells, and two of the residents at the inn awakened to screams and sounds of a struggle.
Damn it.
And, quote, some sort of low groaning noise. After the noise stopped, Martha Wells ran to her window and saw in the dark alley, quote, a large figure, nearly 3 meters tall, heavy set with a wide stature, wearing some sort of cloak. For my standard measurement, homies, 3 meters is about 10 feet tall.
Yeah, it's a big guy.
Big old lad. Absolute unit.
They just came across Shaquille O'Neal in a cloak somewhere in Cambridge. Wait, what year is this again?
1842.
Oh, never mind. It's not Shaquille O'Neal.
I mean, you can't prove that it's not.
It's his old Irish family, the O'Neal clan.
She looked out the window and found retired vampire Shaquille O'Neal. But anyway, so the police arrive at the scene shortly after. It's a similar look to the Blossom Street murder. There's utter destruction in the room. This time the door is still locked, but the window to the alley is broken and covered in blood. In the room, they find the body of Eddie Miller. However, at that point in time, his face was so damaged that it actually took some time before they could find someone who could identify who he was. But his body is bruised and mangled. It's torn apart, but this time it's clearly not arranged in any pattern, so that mostly dispels the Satanist rituals.
Boring. Are you gonna kill someone? Are you gonna kill someone and just leave them drop there? No, kidding me? If you're staging this whole plan, at least put them in a silly shape, right?
What a letdown, right?
Oh, God. Plan your murders better, people.
So Martha Wells, who is, again, the innkeeper, gives her statement to the police about what she saw. One other resident also said that they saw, quote, a large figure running quickly through the darkness, but they couldn't make out any details. So in response to this, the police think, okay, Martha Wells is probably hysterical because there's no way that the killer is 10 feet tall.
Because it's the 1860s, it's England, and she's a woman giving a detailed account. Must be hysterical.
Yeah, they were like, okay, so first of all, that's a lie. But no, they're kind of taking it with a grain of salt. And so their thinking is he's probably not 10 feet tall or 3 meters or whatever, but this person probably is very, very tall. And there's not really that many people in Cambridge. So they decide to just go out and round up every man who's 2 meters or taller. 2 meters is about 6'4". So as you can imagine, there's not that many people in Cambridge who are 6'4" or taller, or even in the vicinity of that.
This is the modern day equivalent of Genghis Khan asking anyone that is bigger than a cartwheel to be murdered. You know?
Yeah, but instead of murdering them, they're just gonna show them to Martha Wells, the innkeeper, and make her decide if they live or die.
Hey man, that's for some people that's close enough to a death sentence.
But so after 2 days of rounding people up, they bring Martha a lineup of 6 very tall men. She takes a look at them and immediately says none of them are the murderer. They're all too small.
Whoa.
So police tell her to rest and look again tomorrow. They still think that maybe she's in some sort of shock at this point. But then that night, police find the body of a girl named Ida Caldwell. She's a student at Trinity College. Her body is found outside the door of the building she lived in. It appeared she had been frantically trying to get inside, but had been pressed against the door and torn apart with such force that the splinters from the wooden door were found in her stomach and lungs.
Oh my gosh.
And her building also is only a short distance from the other 2 murders. So now things are really out of control because all the current quote-unquote suspects were in police custody at the time that this murder would have happened. And Martha Wells is still adamant that they're all too short, meaning that the police have nothing. They're like, we had all these guys locked up, and also they are not tall enough for this woman's standards of 3 meters. So we just completely wasted all that time.
That's why you don't put your height in your Tinder bio.
Don't put your trust in short kings. No, I don't even want to say that ironically.
Actually, no,
I take it back. No, I lift up the short kings. Not in a holding them up for the top shelf way, but in a this is a bad look for me. Look,
shoot, Kurt.
Power to the short kings. That's all.
If anything, if you're a short king, you're free. You're not a murderer.
True. My short kings out there, all certified not murderers.
Not for
Martha
now.
certified not murderers. And by short kings, I mean anyone under 6'5", not a murderer.
Kurt, does that make us short kings? We're both over 6 foot.
But by Martha Wells standards, we are certified not tall enough to commit these murders.
Hell yeah.
But so even worse than the fact that the police have nothing, Ida Caldwell has wealthy family members in London who have now convinced Scotland Yard to send a special investigator to Cambridge, and the stories of these murders are beginning to make their way around London, and of course panic is growing among Cambridge residents because, these killings are happening and police are saying basically we don't know anything.
Nice.
3 days later, October 9th, Inspector Phineas Keane of Scotland Yard arrives in Cambridge. He spends 2 days going over the murders and re-interviewing witnesses. On the 3rd day, another unnamed inspector from Scotland Yard arrives and meets with Inspector Keane. Then on the 4th day, Inspector Keane declared Cambridge safe and the case closed, and the 2 inspectors returned to London.
The Scotland Yard inspector after the 4th day said, "We have now concluded, all of us as a police department, that these murders were in fact just accidents. Pack it up here, nothing to see here, folks."
He said, "In my professional opinion, you are being very dramatic right now." So, I mean, I know there's not very much information here, but do you have any guess on what happened, Luis? You want to care to speculate at all?
Part of me really wants to believe that there's a situation of it's never been an actual murder, but just a big old animal attack. There's just a huge wolf in Cambridge just going around.
In this fantasy, is the wolf malicious, or are they just doing their wolf thing? Is it a serial killer wolf on top of being a wolf, or are they just a regular, citizen run-of-the-mill wolf?
Oh no, absolutely. It has a vendetta to fulfill. The wolf is coming after these victims.
Wow, it's like a sociopath wolf.
Oh, absolutely. There's malice. There's real malice here. This is the type of wolf that would go into a movie theater and yell fire. Actually, this is a bit of a Joker wolf. It's a bit of an agent of chaos. It just wants to see the world burn. What better way than kill college students in Cambridge?
Some men just want to see Cambridge burn.
And then whenever people say, look at that wolf, the wolf did it. The wolf's like, I'm just a wolf, dude. Bark, bark. Couldn't be me. So that's what my theory is. Let me know if I'm close or not. I like to believe that all of this has just been a serious accident, but I know it won't be.
Hey, can I tell you what might be the spookiest detail of all, Luis?
What might be the spookiest detail?
You're not that far off.
What? Incredible. Oh,
no more questions. Let's get to it. So,
yes.
Answers time. All right. We have to go back to September 3rd, 1842. So this is 23 days before the first murder. Okay.
Okay.
And we have a new character, Lord George Dryden. Okay. Lord Dryden is 20 years old. He's studying at Trinity College. That's actually the same college that Ida Caldwell went to. He's an aspiring writer and poet, and he's known as kind of an eccentric among his friends. So he's still doing his
crazy. Is his name Luis Mejia?
And his name is Luis Mejia. In addition audition to be Lord George Dryden. Do you just want to be every character in every story I ever tell, Luis? You know what? Forget Paul LaRue. Every character is just named Luis Mejia from now on.
Yeah, right on.
But anyway, the point is he's an eccentric kind of artsy guy, okay? One of his eccentric qualities is that he's a big lover of animals. He was said to have had all kinds of pets, including geese, horses, monkeys, peacocks, a badger, a fox, 2 falcons, a goat, an Egyptian crane, and too many hunting dogs to count. Okay? So he's all kinds of pets up in here.
That little fact is just like, you're naming specific animals, and then when it comes to dogs, too many. Enough.
Yeah, I don't know if they just gave up at the dogs or if it was just that ridiculous a number of dogs, because they're even like, there's this type of bird and this type of bird. We got 2 foxes, 2 of every animal, 7 clean and 2 unclean, and then a whole bunch of dogs. I mean, just so many dogs.
Unholy, obscene, offensive amount of dogs even.
Picture the largest number of dogs you could think of. There's more in his house.
It's unbearable.
But speaking of the dogs, this becomes a problem because Trinity College does not allow their students to keep dogs at the college. Lord Dryden asks them to make an exception, but they deny him. And he's actually been Lord since he was 11. So it's been a pretty long time since anyone's been able to tell him what to do. So he's very much not happy about not being able to bring his dogs with him.
Hell yeah. Trust fund, baby.
Here we are now on September 3rd. September 3rd is the day of the Stourbridge Fair, which is just a fair that's nearby. Lord Dryden goes to it with some friends. While he's at the fair, he meets a man selling a brown bear, which is just too tempting to resist. And there's also a question about maybe he's still mad about this Trinity no dog policy, but he's like, hey, what's their bear policy though? You know, I'd like to see him get a bear evicted out of here. Okay.
Where in this lease agreement does it deny me a bear?
Show me the fine print concerning.
Let me just make a comment. I love that this man is going through the fair and just says, it's a bear. Can't help myself. You know, like I've been in those situations where I find myself like with a fun item that I know I can't live without. You know, something simple like a new bar of soap or a banjo. Simple stuff like that. But this man fully saw a bear and said, "No, I'm taking that home. There's no way I'm leaving this market without that bear."
Yeah, he answered the call of opportunity. You know, a lot of people would have to take some time to think about the bear purchase. No, he's a simple man. He sees a bear, he buys it. End of story. You know,
yeah, that is shark mentality. He's got it.
Yeah, you gotta respect that maneuvering.
You do.
So he's got his emotional support bear that he's gonna try to get around the policy of Trinity College.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they know about it, but I think his thinking basically is like, you know, if they do find out about it, I'd like to see them try to get a bear out of my possession. So Lord Dryden and his friends buy the bear and they bring it back to their house on a wagon and park it in a nearby shed. And this is really a case of seemed like a good idea at the time because right away there's some problems. The first one being that brown bears eat around 40 kilos, which is 90 pounds, of food every day. That's a difficult amount of food to be sneaking to a bear that you're keeping in a shed every single day. So the bear is generally pretty hungry.
The bear is ravenous constantly. Damn.
Yeah, the bear is getting majorly dieted right now.
Oh, jeez.
Additionally, the wagon cage is not really made to be a permanent housing. It's not very big, and it's also not overly sturdy.
Classic.
And lastly, this should kind of go without saying, but bears do not really make good pets. I mean, he's like, what's the bear policy of Trinity? Well, I have news for Lord Dryden. Pretty much everywhere has a no bear policy. I don't know if there's anywhere where you should really be keeping a bear.
Yeah, I think few public spaces are pro bear, frankly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Few public spaces are advocating for more bears.
Yeah, everyone is pretty happy with their level of bear. They at least don't want any more bear, that's for sure.
I think in most everyone's life, if they run into one bear, that's 100% more bears than they've seen in their entire life.
Yeah. So this is a bit of an ill thought out idea. But then we come to the night of September 26th. So at some point on the night of September 26th, the bear broke the door on its cage and escaped, eventually wandering a few blocks over to Blossom Street, where it presumably found its way through Minnie Baker's unlocked door, likely following the smell of food.
Of course.
Later that night, allegedly unaware of the bear's actions, Lord Dryden and his friends found the bear and lured him back home using treats and carvings of ham. Then we skip to the night of October 3rd, when the bear again broke the door on his cage and found his way to the Dog and Partridge Inn, perhaps smelling the food through the open window of Eddie Miller's room that he entered the room through. And this time, Lord Dryden and his friends would not be able to find the bear until the morning hours of October 6th, after he had already killed Ida Caldwell Caldwell. And this last murder is the only one that suggested the bear might have developed a taste for human flesh, since there's no logical reason for the bear to think that Ida had food, but obviously it's impossible to say. After catching the bear the second time, Lord Dryden and his friends drove the wagon to nearby woods during the night and shot the bear. So then after this, when the news of the murders began to circulate in London and Inspector Keene was sent to Cambridge, Lord Dryden wrote to an unnamed friend with connections to Scotland Yard asking him to stop the proceedings before they got out of hand. So basically he gets his friend to go to Scotland Yard and explain the story without using Lord Dryden's name. And given that the bear was already dead and Lord Dryden has these powerful allies, Scotland Yard decided to quietly close the case to protect his identity.
Wow.
The Dryden family revealed the truth in 1926, 50 years after Lord George Dryden's death, to give closure to the victims' families. But yeah, for all that time, no one knew what had happened with those murders. They were just told that it was safe and nothing else happened, so they went on with their lives.
No one investigated the fact that there was all of a sudden a dead bear in the woods near Cambridge.
You know, it's like I said, at this point in time, it's still kind of like half agricultural village, so they're really like out in the countryside. I think it's pretty likely that no one found this bear before it got decomposed.
I find it so interesting. Just this all started with a man saying, "Don't worry, I'll buy the pet first. I'll figure out the details later." It's like buying a dog before you even have an apartment or a set policy on where to keep the dog, you know, and then just this bear kills it. But at the end of the day, there was an animal acting with malice, but the only malice that was in that bear's heart was hunger.
Yeah, just a regular animal instinct. I mean, it's difficult to say if the bear developed a taste for human flesh, and even if it did, I don't know if you can really blame the bear, because the bear was put in a situation that bears are certainly not meant to be in. But yeah, it is a really classic story of like someone doing something stupid that leads to big repercussions, and it's also very classic in that he did not face any repercussions himself.
Yeah,
for this.
that's such a okay. I don't want to blame your storytelling skills or the story itself, Kurt. That story just kind of ends. That story's just like, nope, and it was the bear all along. Whoops. You know?
Yeah.
Imagine being one of the family members of these people that were killed and getting told this as a way of closure. How disappointed would you be, Kurt? It's like, oh, it wasn't a murder. It was just a bear.
Even before that, all the time where they didn't know what had happened and they were just told that we can't tell you, but it's been handled. That would have been, you know, like a super dire situation. It's kind of one of the unfortunate things of history that the perspective of the people without power is generally lost. You know, we only have the side of the story of what the public heard generally and what Lord Dryden personally knew, but we don't get the perspectives of the victims or the victims' families or the people who were probably most greatly affected by this.
Or the bear.
We don't know what was going on with the bear. You know, I guess there's always the possibility that like the bear was at that fair and he's like, if I get out of this fair, the first thing I'm going to do is kill again. And then he got in there and he's like, I'm just going to tear this bad boy up. So maybe the bear was guilty the whole time.
Also, no one's talking about the background of the bear. Why was the bear at the market in the first place? You know, why was he being sold?
Yeah, what did the bear have going on?
Maybe it was less of a matter of like, oh, I have a bear, I'm gonna sell it. But no, it's like, oh, get this bear off of my hands. And luckily there was a pet enthusiast.
Your Honor, this bear killed in self-defense, okay? He felt threatened in the privacy of someone else's home.
Seriously.
What was he to do?
Imagine the field day Oxford University had whenever they heard that Cambridge, their rival school, was having bear troubles, you know?
That's very true. That's tough to come back from. Look, bad sports season, you know, we'll do better next year. Bad tuition numbers, hey, it's just a lull in the action, okay? But bear murders? What are you going to do about the bear murders? Dude, oh my gosh.
The next away games at Oxford for Cambridge are going to be hell for the Cambridge students.
It's a wonder. I wonder if Trinity College is still around. I should have looked that up. Maybe after the bear murders, they're like, that's it. No more.
Once we hit the bear scandal, we could never recover financially from the bear season.
That's rock bottom. Bear scandal, you don't want to be in that.
You don't want to cut up in a bear scandal.
All that being said about bear scandals, shall we move on to the second story?
I think so, Kurt. I'm ready. I mean, I'm still thinking about that bear, so let's see what else happens. It's pretty spooky. I will tell you, that first story, pretty spooky. Up until the bear reveal.
Pretty spooky.
The bear reveal, it's like showing the monster in a movie, you know? It turned it from a scary story to a bear.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's just contextually, though, because if you think about 3 people being brutally murdered by a bear, that's still pretty terrifying. But, you know, a second ago we thought it was like witches and Satanists, so now the bear's like, oh, it's just a bear murder or whatever.
Oh, God. It's just a bear murder? I see those every other week.
Look, fine, whatever. I promise spooky things. The next story, we're getting spooky, okay?
Oh,
No gimmicks. No, it turns out to be a bear, okay? Actual gore, actual malice, all right?
Oh,
Let's
God.
get to it, okay? This story also starts on a very dark night. Middle of the night in 1974. This time we are in Tokyo, Japan. Good year. Yes, good year. Our protagonist is a 24-year-old man named Issei Sagawa. He's a student at the nearby Waco University, and Issei has just made a very important decision.
Waco, Texas? Is he a transfer student?
Waco, Texas, which is, of course, a neighborhood of Tokyo, Japan, as I previously mentioned. So, since the first grade, Issei has experienced an impulsive craving for human flesh.
Ah, nice.
But he's never acted on it in all these years. So he's 24 now. He's never acted on this. He's never acknowledged it. But for some reason, on this night in 1974, Issei saw and followed home a tall German woman. He waited for her to fall asleep. Then he broke into her house intending to slice off a piece of her buttocks to steal and eat.
Wow.
But she awoke while he was in the middle of the act and tackled him and held him down until the police arrived. So not a very good spot for him to be in.
What?
You know, that's as caught red-handed as you can get.
Did
right?
this man only planning to take a piece of butt with him, or was he planning on murdering and then stealing a piece of buttocks?
No, he wasn't gonna kill her. He was just like, I just want to taste it. Maybe I can just get a little chunk snipped off before she realizes, and I'll be out of there. So
just real quick, let me grab a quick slice of ass and then run away.
Yeah, he just wants a sample, just a little sample. Not gonna miss it. It'll grow back.
Wake up and then your bed is bloody and you're missing half a butt.
But either way, nothing gets sliced off because she catches him in the act. The police come, and so now he's caught pretty red-handed. One important detail about Issei is that he has very rich parents. Additionally, the woman mistakenly thought that his intentions were to rape her, which he does not correct because he's like, I guess that's better than the cannibalism. But what ends up happening is Issei's father pays the woman a settlement and the rape charges are dropped. So then in 1977, this is 3 years later, Issei moves to France to pursue a PhD in Paris. Nearly every night he brings home a prostitute with the intent to shoot them and eat them, but stops short of doing it.
Jesus.
And this goes on for 4 years.
I like to imagine that every single time he's wanting to eat them and like shoot them and eat them, but he actually has a really nice evening with them, invites them out to dinner, and then once he's about to kill them, like said, "Oh, damn, but I'm full tonight. Oh, shoot. Next time, I promise. Next time is going to be the one." And then the same thing happens. They go out for tacos or something. It's like, "Oh, that was a really nice meal, Brandy." And then turns out, "Oh, shoot, I was meaning to kill you." Oh, crazy. Yeah.
Every time he's super pumped up for it, and then the post-dinner food coma hits, and he's like, "Oh, okay, tomorrow."
I'll wait this one out. Yeah, this
one's, oh man, that was a lot of beef. This one's going to require a nap. We got to kill tomorrow. What can he do? After a dinner date? How could you kill someone after a dinner date and eat them? You're already full.
Shoot, Gert, we're recording this after I've eaten dinner, and I don't know if I can last.
You can declare right now in the position that you could not eat a person right now. You are too full.
I'm too full right now.
You heard it here first, folks.
What's the only thing stopping me from cannibalism? Bad timing.
Anyway, so after 4 years, he finally on June 11th, 1981, decides to go through with it. So he invites a female classmate over for dinner at his apartment under the pretext of needing help with a school assignment. After dinner, he asks her to read a poem, and when her back is turned, he shot her through the neck and killed her. During the next few days, he first has sex with her corpse and then gradually dismembers and eats her, and he takes pictures of the body at every stage of the process.
Jeez.
After 4 days, he attempts to dispose of 2 suitcases full of leftover body parts in a nearby lake, but he gets caught in the act by police.
Oh, damn. He's throwing away his leftovers? That's a bad move. Amateur move.
Oh,
Those are going to last you for so much longer. Come on, man.
Oh, no.
I guess it's 1974. There's really no microwave at this point, right? You can't really nuke
Oh,
your leftovers.
no.
Yeah, that's a waste, man. It's a waste.
No.
Anyway.
Now you suddenly
proceed.
are very hungry. What happened, Luis?
I'm not hungry. I'm just being practical, Kurt. I know the value of stretching out one meal for 3 days, okay?
You're like, look, I'm no sociopath, but good money decisions are good money decisions, okay?
I was a college student, Kurt. I'm familiar with it.
Forget retired vampire. I should have said would-be frugal cannibal, Luis Mejia.
Yeah. Please. Yeah, I'll eat someone, but I don't have that much money.
Right. But the big point here is that he's, how you say, not a smooth criminal, because he's really caught in the act now, okay? They got him with not one, but 2 suitcases full of body parts. They found the pictures. They find the gun. They find the butcher knife he used.
Officer, it's not what you think.
He's as caught as he can be. I mean, there's like not even an alternative theory to what this man could be doing. I don't know if he offered an explanation, but what can you say at that point? The 2 suitcases full of body parts is enough as it is, and they got more on top of that.
I was going on a trip.
Work trip. Business trip.
I was going quick business trip.
Okay, so now I'm going to briefly walk you through the legal proceedings that Issei went through. And Luis, I know you're going to zone out here because, as we have talked about before, when I start talking about legal proceedings, you start thinking about playing the accordion. Okay?
That's true. That's true. So keep me entertained.
Listen, this is brief and it's very important to the story. So bear with me. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off together, okay?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, so Issei is arrested. He's in prison for 2 years awaiting trial in France. Then he's found legally insane and unfit to stand trial by a French judge. This judge orders him to be held in a mental institution. Then, after being interviewed about the murder, he becomes a minor celebrity in Japan, and the unwanted attention from this leads to the French authorities deciding to extradite him to Japan. In Japan, Issei was immediately committed to a mental hospital in Tokyo, where he was examined by psychologists who declared him sane. So they're basically saying that he didn't commit his crimes because he was insane. They were motivated by his sexual perversion. So therefore, there's no reason to keep him in a mental hospital. So finally, on August 12th, 1986, Issei Sagawa checked himself out of the mental hospital and re-entered society a free man.
Whoa.
So in total, for first-degree murder, necrophilia, and cannibalism, he spent 2 years in prison and 3 years in mental institutions. And all of this is not to mention the first thing, the attempted rape/cannibalism or whatever, that he basically just paid a fine for.
Is cannibalism illegal?
It's gotta be, right? I mean, suicide is illegal, which that one's crazy because I always think like, what are they gonna do? But there's no way cannibalism is legal. I mean, I guess I also don't know because you're talking like the laws of France and Japan, both of which I'm not really familiar with.
Well,
so
I think it's a matter of like maybe cannibalism is indeed legal, but since it entails you murdering someone or having access to a dead body, then that's where the illegality lies. That's what I like to think about this, is just how maybe this is not how it happened, but I just imagine a bunch of lawyers sitting around seeing this case and seeing like technically didn't do anything wrong, like sure he murdered, he killed someone by shooting them through the neck, but like the rest, like the necrophilia, the cannibalism, maybe all of that was legal. It's like, damn, we can't really get him for this. Yeah, it's messed up, but
I have 2 things to say to this. Okay, first of all, at one point, and who knows what this says about me, but I was just interested in like from the accounts of cannibals who have eaten people, what do humans taste like? And I stumbled onto this account of someone who had eaten someone in France, and the person they ate voluntarily wanted to be eaten, but they still got in trouble for it because it was cannibalism. I think it was in France. So at least in France, even if it's like quote unquote ethical cannibalism, you're in trouble for it. Also, in addition to that, I got body parts and you got a mouth, Luis. So there's a quick way to find out which countries this is legal in if you want to.
Are you flirting with me, Kurt? Hold on.
I mean, when am I? But okay, let me finish this because we got a little bit left. Okay, so since his quote unquote incarceration, Issei has written 20 books, some of them actually about the murder he committed. Whoa. He also briefly wrote restaurant reviews for a Japanese magazine called Spa, which at first I thought was just like a weird detail, but then if you consider the restaurant angle of it, I don't know if they hired him and didn't know who he was or they thought that would be funny, but that's just pretty bizarre anyway you slice it.
He just has a very unique set of taste buds. He can taste flavors.
He has a refined palate.
He can taste flavors that no one else can.
For legal reasons.
For legal reasons. Yeah, exactly.
But as of today, Issei is 73 years old, still living in Japan with either his younger brother or caretakers since he had a stroke in 2013. The most recent piece of media to come from him is an interview he gave in 2015 where he talked about still experiencing cannibalistic urges for a certain unnamed TV actress.
Oh, unnamed TV actress.
Yeah. Quote, I'll catch a glimpse of her thigh and think, that sure looks tasty, but I don't feel like I actually want to eat it. As I accomplished the act of cannibalism once, there's no meaning to maintaining the desire for it anymore. In my book, I wrote that human flesh was tasty, but that was not really true. I'd much rather eat Kobe beef, but because I desired to consume human flesh for so long, I'd managed to convince myself that it would necessarily be delicious.
Oh, that is...
So, in case you were curious, he's not like, I didn't do this. He's like, I killed someone, I ate them, I thought it was a real great idea at the time. Now, maybe not such a good idea, but hey, we still think about it sometimes, and this man is free. freak.
That is such a brutally honest, like you kind of have to respect that angle. It's like, yeah, like I ate it, not the best, but I did it. Maybe I'll do it again. Like I don't want to. It's like he didn't acquire the taste for human flesh. He was really wanting human flesh and then said, not really. It's kind of how growing up you get told that caviar is this whole very special thing that is reserved only for the high class, and then you eat it and you say, this is the saltiest, nastiest thing I've ever tried, you know? So maybe it's a situation like that. He just got transfixed on human flesh and said, man, how good could it be? How good could it be, right? Like, why is everyone making a big fuss about this? I guess I'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, he's really walking the line because he's also saying, like, sometimes I still think could be a little yummy, you know? So he's like, it's not tasty, but I also still fantasize about it. What I really respect is that he's like fully embracing it. You know, as much as there's like a through line in these stories of gory violence, there's also a through line of like how people who do not have to face consequences end up acting, you know, doing something stupid like, oh, I'm just going to buy a bear without thinking about how that might end up affecting the people around me. Or like talking about casually, I'm still fantasizing about eating a certain daytime TV actress.
You know, here's the thing that troubles me or disturbs me a little bit with these stories. For example, both stories, we tend to get focused on the, oh, it's a bear, haha, it was hungry, that's why it ate people. Or this case, like, oh, this is a man that has eaten a person, whoa, whoops, you know? But then we forget, like, no, he killed someone. Like, he fully murdered a person and attempted to murder another one, you know? So we can say, oh, very quirky, he fantasized about eating a certain someone. At the same time, it's like, okay, last time he did that, he committed actual crime. You know, same with the bear, you know, like being torn apart by a bear is not funny.
Right.
But hoo-hoo.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. History has a way of brushing over the really gruesome details and making them seem more benign than they are.
That's wild.
You know, I'm just thinking now, there's also like a really interesting angle of this, of that obviously he got the equivalent of a slap on the wrist for the crimes he committed, right? Yeah. But then the interesting thing is that like he didn't commit any more crimes after. So on one hand, you can say like the system worked. Like he committed a crime, he got punished, and then he did not commit any more crimes because, you know, on paper, I guess the justice system is to reform. And I'm not trying to get into a whole philosophical debate about the purpose of the justice system, but it is weird to think about. Like, we all innately know he did not get adequately punished for this, but at the same time, it did create the end goal, which was a safer society. It's just bizarre to think about.
Maybe we're giving mental health authorities in this story in particular, or even just police authorities or justice department authorities, a little bit too much credit. Maybe this man, all he wanted to do was eat one person, then be done with it. Like maybe he was never unfit, like mentally. Maybe he literally just said, I want to eat one person, I'll be done. It'll be the perfect crime, I'll retire.
He's not a serious
right?
cannibal.
Like,
he's just like a weekend warrior type, you know? He's like,
yeah,
I want to try it. I'm not like invested in this. It's not like who I am. It's just a phase.
Yeah, I don't identify with cannibal, you know? It's like I wouldn't call myself a cannibal. I have eaten people. I have acted in cannibalistic ways, but my name's just Tony, you know? Like,
I do other things. I collect stamps, okay? I have stuff going on.
I play Dungeons and Dragons on the weekend, and I paint sometimes, but you eat a person once and all of a sudden you're a cannibal? Ridiculous. You know, you mentioned that he, wrote 20 books? Over 20 books?
Yeah, 20, a little bit more than 20 books, I believe.
But no one refers to him as author. Best-selling author. You know? No one refers to him as restaurant reviewer, restaurant critic.
That's true. All the reviewed restaurants, all the written books. The problem is, if you wrote books about your cannibalism, you're not doing much to dispel that side of you.
All right, fine. But I'm just saying, I think this man has tried to do everything else with his life. It's like Tanya Harding, like after the whole incident that happened with Nancy Kerrigan and all of that, like she went on to do like cooking shows. She went on to even be in like WWE or like professional wrestling to try to dispel the myth. Like became a welder at one point, but she's always going to be known as Tanya Harding and breaking kneecaps. It's the same situation. You know, I'm not condoning the activities that happened in this podcast or that have been told in these podcasts, but having a little bit of an empathy for my man.
That's true. And there's also the interesting detail to note here that we're spending some time debating: is the bear a sociopath? Is the bear an innocent animal? Is the cannibal reformed? Is the cannibal a cannibal even? Is he just a part-time cannibal, full-time? But what we have forgotten a little bit is that one of these stories is completely made up, right?
I know.
And that is all on you to tell me which is which.
Oh man, Kurt, this is again the worst part. It's every day, every time we hit record, every time we sit down, either I tell you a story, I invent a story, I hear them from you. Again, I'm believing in a more magical world. I'm believing in a world where anything and everything is possible. And every time I record this podcast, I get broken down, myself. I am emotionally shattered by me. So,
well, not to add to your burden, Luis, but I do want to point out that, again, we have run into contemporary time period. So, not only are you picking which one of these versions of history are you going to have to completely erase from your mind as true, but also on the line here is whether or not, like, currently in this second that we are recording this, or you, the audience, are listening to this, there is a person who killed and ate someone walking around out there free. Is that true or not? Who knows?
God.
So with that for you to think on, shall we move to the ancient ritual? Let us say the ancient words of just a little bit of
deliberation. Oh boy, Kurt. Okay, remind me the two stories that we've just heard, please,
yes,
Kurt.
So I told you the story of the Victorian era grisly, no pun intended, murders that rocked the town, which ended up being an escaped pet brown bear, and the story of the Japanese cannibal who ended up, through some weird contortions of the legal system, going free, who apparently is not planning to eat any more people, but still thinks about it sometimes, just for fun, just to feel something.
Whenever you get lonely at night, looking out the window, there's rain pouring down, you're listening to Evanescence, all you're thinking about is flesh.
You think you ever sees like a TikTok of like someone marinating some raw meat or something, is like, I should call her.
Jesus. My God.
That's dark. Okay. I'm going to stop talking now. Please, Luis, deliberate.
All right, Kurt. So let me look at those two stories. First one, the bear story. We've talked about the British before. We've talked about the British before 1900s and how they were just always down for some weird stuff. And we've talked about how the British, and we generally know that the British people we've talked about, the English people we've talked about, tend to be very eccentric, and tend to be very exciting and do a bunch of different things, flamboyant even. So I am I fully believe that there has been a man that has owned so many pets, including an unnamable amount of dogs.
A medically inadvisable amount of dogs.
Seriously. And then happens to walk by a market that happens to be selling a bear. Like, that's ridiculous, but it's just the type of ridiculous that I come to expect from like Victorian England. I will say, with that story, I'm finding a little just difficult to see why there's a bear, why the bear was being sold, right? Like that's where I'm getting hung up. Like, I made a joke about what are the credentials of this bear? What is this bear running away from?
Right.
But that was like genuine questions. Like, what? Yeah. Why is this man just selling a bear? Plus,
well, I don't know if you know this also, but brown bears have been extinct in England for like a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. I was coming around to that. How there were bears in Europe. There were bears in like Italy, for example, for the Roman times, and there were bears in Britain too. But no one has probably seen a bear in years. So this bear is probably either like Russian even or somewhere from over there.
It's just more erasure of the bear history. We even more don't know the background of the bear, because the bear definitely did not come from England. There's no way. Yeah, I don't know where the bear came from, but it wasn't England.
Maybe the bear committed like murder in Boston and it's trying to run away from that too. I mean, who knows?
The bear was also being extradited.
Yeah, seriously. So that's where I'm kind of struggling with that story. However, the rest is pretty believable. Plus, you have several names on there, and you know how much I do enjoy names.
You do enjoy names.
I do enjoy names, so the fact that there's a bunch of names there adds a little bit of credibility. Now, with the other story, with the Japanese cannibal, for some reason, I'm just imagining this story kind of like a social network movie. I can picture the movie of this man that grew up in Tokyo, went to France, and then started doing all of these incorrigible things, right?
Right.
Where I'm having trouble is how come he didn't get very much reprimanded from sneaking into the first victim's house and chopping a buttocks off? Right. Like how was that met with just a slap on the wrist? Sure, the rest is also met with a slap on the wrist. Don't get me wrong. He did murder someone and didn't really get much from it. But that's where I'm confused. But then again, human nature and people are terrible. Just in general, we are. So I can fully imagine us glamorizing a cannibal in this way, or the Japanese public, the French public glamorizing someone that has committed this crime and also eaten the flesh. I mean, shoot, look at the different documentaries we have on different streaming platforms about serial killers and how everyone eats them up, right? So I see that as a possibility, how after all he went free. Oh man, Kurt, I hate this, dude. I really do. These are both like such simple stories too.
Yeah, I thought this one might be tough for you because I feel like I prioritized more like spooky, true crimey type stories because I want to do Halloween stuff. So that means that these stories are both in a slightly different genre than the ones we normally hear. So I thought that this might end up causing a lot of problems for you. In addition to the fact that again we have a story running into like our current lives, which is always really disorienting.
It really is, and I think you are swimming in the fact that these are short stories with not a whole lot of detail to put out there. You know, I think you are using that so much to your advantage, and it's killing me, frankly.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to go with a little bit of my gut feeling, because while rich people are always very powerful and have influence, and cops are always bumbling and whatever, I feel like there must have been some sort of way that people knew there was a bear committing these murders. Like I don't really trust that bear as well as this situation. I feel like if a bear has come into your house, then I feel like you might have to see it leave eventually, right? It's not an animal that can hide easily in the night. So I'm going to go with that. The bear story is the fake one, although it's the more fun one in my mind. The bear story is fake, and the Japanese cannibal author man is the real one, Kurt.
And at one time, magazine restaurant review critic.
Right. Yes. Sorry. Let me not
forget
forget
about that.
his career.
All right. The bear story is fake. You are correct. The bear story is fake.
Woo! Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We out here.
So here's what I will tell you, actually. What my inspiration for the story was is that Lord Byron, famous poet, around 1820s, got a bear. He purchased a brown bear from the Stourbridge Fair, the same one that I said in the story, and kept it as a pet at Trinity College in defiance of their no dog policy because he was an eccentric pet lover. So I saw that, and then I just kind of thought, wow, what if this bear got out? It would commit maybe these grisly murders that people would think is like Jack the Ripper adjacent. But it turns out I was in a time period before Jack the Ripper, so the bear is the original Jack the Ripper. But all that being said, yeah, so our restaurant critic author cannibal is 73 and still out there. That's just insane to consider, right?
Did he ever graduate from his PhD in France?
I'll be completely honest with you, Luis. I have no idea. I mean, I'm going to say no because...
Is this man a doctor?
I don't think so, because he wasn't done with school when he committed the murders. And like I said, he got caught 4 days after he committed the murder, and that led to a chain reaction of incarceration that he was not done with till he's back in Japan. So I assume he never finished. I mean, despite the fact of like him getting off without any real punishment, it doesn't seem like he had a super comfortable life after this. He was pretty well cut off from his parents. It seems like he's only cared for by his brother because he needs it from the stroke. So I guess the one weird silver lining of this is that like it didn't all work out for him.
I guess.
I don't know. It's just a story that makes you feel like icky all the way. But hey, I gave you guys a content warning, and we are here for true crime. Okay.
Yeah. And listen, Kurt, if anything, you rip the Band-Aid off of which story is true, but the false story still has so much truth in it that it does make me believe in a happier world, in a more magical world where people own bears.
Yeah, the bear owning part was true. And I am also really baffled about how the brown bear got there, because you're absolutely right. I mean, like we both said, the brown bear has been extinct in England for a long time. So no one really knows where the bear came from. I think it's not even known for sure if the bear was purchased at the fair. That's just assumed. But yeah, you're right. I feel like probably if there was a bear that committed 3 entire murders, somebody would have seen it
Right.
at some point, but who knows?
I like to imagine that there was just a bear wandering around the fair. Lord Byron walks up and says, "You, sir, can I buy this?" And the guy says, "Well, I don't own it." And before he stops, he realizes, "Oh, I can sell this. I can sell this bear and I can make a purchase." And he just said, I don't know. Yeah, all yours, dude. Keep it.
Exactly. Except after the bit of research I did on Lord Byron for this episode, I feel like it would have been more likely that he would have seen a bear wandering around at the fair and started flirting with it, and then the guy would have sold it to him.
Oh, jeez.
Speaking of you inserting yourself into a protagonist,
Oh?
I mean, I don't know how much you know about Lord Byron, but like, this is your guy, Luis. This is the
I do like
poster child for you.
I do like Lord Byron. I am a fan. I am a fan of Lord Byron. I like to think of myself as the local Lord Byron.
But all that being said, Luis, now you have to share the knowledge that there's like someone who killed an Ada person out there walking around. And I learned this like 3 or 4 days ago now, and I still feel really weird about it. How do you feel about it?
I don't know how much this paints, what kind of picture this paints on myself as a person, as my character. I'm not too stressed, you know? like I've always been the type of person that when asked if I'm willing to eat a person, I say, yeah, why not? Like, cannibalism doesn't stress me out, right? Like, it's just more flesh. And who here has not fantasized, look down at their hips or look down at their thighs and say, if I put this on a spit, this would be delicious, right? Like, I often find myself doing that. Yeah, I'm a large guy, so I know I could provide a meal for a family of 4 for like 20 days. But, you know, cannibalism doesn't scare me as much as other people.
All right.
Take that as you will.
All right. So all that is on a recording that will no doubt be of some importance later when the trial starts. That being said, hope everyone enjoyed listening. Sorry that you now have to know there's a cannibal out there, but I mean, he's a pretty old guy and he sounds pretty sickly, so hopefully that's not an immediate pressing concern in your life. But other than that, hope you enjoyed listening to the stories. If you like us, check us out on Instagram at UnbelievablePod or Twitter at UnbelievablePC. Leave us a review. Tell your friends and family about it if you like it. And that brings our score to 2-1 with Luis in the lead. But
Ooh.
I mean, 2-1 is really nothing. You know, it's still anyone's game at this point.
Yeah, you know, we'll see. You say that now.
I'd love to be in the lead given how last season went at the end, but we'll see. I mean, it's neck and neck right now.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, hope you enjoyed listening, everyone. See you next time. And regardless of how you think you can finagle the legal system, don't kill and eat anyone. Just please don't. Luis, you too, don't kill and eat anyone, please.
If you do eat someone, make sure you grab a body part that has enough fat so it cooks well.
If you do eat someone, make sure they're well seasoned. Get a good lawyer. That's all. Bye, everyone.
See ya.